Hi, my name is Kozo Hattori, and today I want to talk about a realization I had at a 10-day Vipassana meditation retreat. And I want to preface this by saying that I don't think that this particular experience was typical of a normal Vipassana experience, but at the same time I don't think it was entirely unique as well. I believe that we all walk different paths, but our destination is the same. So what happened, the experience I had, for some reason it reminded me of Jodie Foster's film Contact, and I don't know if how many people have seen that. It's an older film, 1997 I think, and it's based on a book by Carl Sagan, the great scientist who came out with the Cosmos series. And in this film, Jodie Foster experiences something that she's a scientist, and she experiences something, and she can't with 100% confidence claim that this actually happened. And she's in front of like a government board, like a trial. She's on trial, and they're saying, "You're a scientist. Can you say that this happened for sure?" And she says, "I can't." And they say, "Well, why don't you withdraw your testimony? Why don't you say that this never happened at all?" And she says, and this is a quote, she says, "Because I can't. I had an experience. I can't prove it. I can't even explain it. But everything I know as a human being, everything that I am tells me that it was real. I was given something wonderful, something that changed me forever, a vision of the universe that tells us undeniably how tiny and insignificant and how rare and precious we all are. A vision that tells us that we belong to something that is greater than ourselves, that we are not, that none of us are alone. I wish I could share that. I wish that everyone, if only for one moment, could feel that awe and humility and hope. But that continues to be my wish. And what I experienced in the last 10 days was very similar to this. And which is why I'd like to share it. I wish that everyone could experience this. I wish that everyone could have the vision that I had. And I also want to record this because I just got back from the retreat yesterday. And I call this moment, it was a moment of clarity. I saw things clearly. And being back from less than one day, I already see the lenses getting blurred. I already see society, and just being back in the city, I already see that I'm losing that clarity. So I wanted to record this as soon as I could, so that I have this to remind myself, and hopefully to remind others, that we are all connected. So this is what happened. So on day 7, which I think which happened to be a full moon day, and I don't know if that has any relevance, but on day 7 I went to the 4 a.m. Meditation retreat, 4:30 a.m. meditation retreat, and a day earlier, 2 days earlier, I had experienced something where when I was sitting in meditation, it almost felt like my body became a statue, became like wooden, and I couldn't feel anything. I could just feel a slight pressure of where my hands were touching my knees, and pressure on where my sitting bones were touching the zafu pillow that I was sitting on, and that's all I could really feel. But when I moved my attention, let's say to my shoulder, I could feel my shoulder. But then as soon as I scanned past the shoulder, it would turn wooden again, and then I could feel my arm, and then that would turn wooden. I'd feel my hands, that would turn wooden, and it was a very pleasant sensation because rather than struggle through meditation, just feeling all these things and like, being in pain and wanting to move, I was just there. And it was a wonderful way to pass the time of meditation, except where I had all this pressure in my sitting bones from sitting on, and it was just really heavy pressure. And so that kind of kept me out of, being completely wooden, completely a statue. Because at the whole time, in the back of my mind, I was like, that pressure in my sitting bones is really, oh God, I wish that would go away. I was almost saying that. So on the 7th day, I experienced the same thing, except for there was no pressure. There was very little pressure in my sitting bones. So I was able to almost go into a state where I was a statue. I was just wooden, and I didn't feel anything. And I started doing this thing that Goenkaji had introduced the day before, but he introduced it for experienced students. But me wanting to be maybe ego, maybe wanting to be in front of the curve, I said, I'll try that. And he called it sweeping. And you, rather than focus on each individual point to feel the sensation, you sweep the body, and you just sweep for like a uniform, subtle sensations throughout the whole body. And so I started sweeping from my forehead down. And your eyes are closed the whole time during Vipassana meditation. So my eyes are closed, and I'm just mentally sweeping. And while I'm sweeping, it felt like I swept away my forehead. It was as if my forehead was like dust. And when I swept, the dust went away and my forehead went away. And I swept my whole body. And when I swept my whole body went away. And I was nothing but vibration. I was nothing but like little tiny points of light, right? And it felt amazing. It felt like my whole body, like not only was I wooden, but there was nothing there. And I felt like I could sit there for the rest of time. I was very comfortable. It was a very soothing feeling. So then, the image that I actually got, I don't know if I got this later when reflecting on it or at the actual moment, because we weren't allowed to have journals or anything to write with. I'm recalling this from memory. This happened, 4 days ago or something. So I'm recalling all this from memory. So the image that I attached to this is the image of Neo in the Matrix. The first Matrix was the only good Matrix. The image of Neo when he realizes that it's the Matrix and he turns into that green framework of what he is, like it's just that green framework of light and energy. That's what I felt like. It felt like that, And so I'm sitting there and it's just this amazing feeling. And then somebody coughed, like, there's somebody else in the meditation hall, and they coughed. And, the cough came at me like a vibration, which is what sound, which is what a cough is. It came at me like a vibration. It went through this framework of vibration that I was, and it just kind of it kind of like went through me like that, and I went, wow, a cough or that sound, that's just a vibration too. It's all just a vibration. And then somebody else moved, and I was like, there's another vibration. And so what I started perceiving was like, not people in the room moving or coughing or doing something like that, but just these vibrations coming out of nowhere. So it was like a cough would come, but it wasn't like a person was coughing. It was just like a vibration would appear and come. So then it felt like there was nobody else in the room with me, right? And then it felt like there was no floor. I was just floating, just floating, vibration floating, and then these vibrations would come and go through me, and then another vibration come and go through me. And that was incredible. I dropped away not only out of my body, but I dropped away all other bodies around me. And then I felt this cool breeze on my face. And it was a distinct cool breeze. It wasn't like just like a little subtle, but I felt this on my face. So I looked up, and I didn't look up. I had my eyes closed, so I perceived up. I don't know how I say it. I perceived up, and the ceiling of the meditation hall had disappeared. And it must have been like 4:45, 5 in the morning. And all I saw was this beautiful night sky, stars, dark stars, and I was just like, oh my goodness. And so I just went. I just shot out of the roof, and left my body behind. And I didn't feel anything in my body, and I just shot out of the roof. And I was like, I'm going to go find God. Why not? Like, I can go anywhere I want. I'm going to go find God. And I shot through the universe, like just kept going. I said, I'm going to go to the edge of the universe and find God. So I got to the edge of the universe within like 2 seconds. And I'm at the edge of the universe, and the edge of the universe was going. It wasn't like, here's an edge. Oh, I'm at the edge. The edge of the universe was going. So I was like trying to go with the edge of the universe, but I couldn't get in front of the edge of the universe. I couldn't get around it. I just kept going. But the further and further I got with the edge of the universe, everything dropped away. There was nothing. There was no stars. There was nothing. And there was no sounds. There was no energy. All there was this vibration. It was almost like there's all these vibrations, like me being a vibration, sound being a vibration, electromagnetic forces being a vibration. There's all these vibrations. But when you get to the edge of the universe, all the vibrations drop off, and there's just one vibration, the one vibration that just keeps going. And I tried to listen to it. I couldn't hear it. I didn't know what it sounded like, but I could feel it. I could just feel this vibration. It was uniform. It was the only thing that was out there was this vibration. That's it. And I was like out there, like feeling this vibration going, like the vibration. This is the vibration at the edge of the universe. And I was thinking, what does that vibration feel like? And it felt familiar. It felt like I felt this before. I was like, what does it feel like? And I thought, oh, it kind of feels like love. And right when I thought that, I said, I'm going to the heart. So I went, and immediately I was back from the edge of the universe. I was back into the meditation hall. And when I got back to my body, it was bizarre, but when I got back to feeling my body, I had no idea that this was happening when I was, my mind was at the edge of the universe. When I got back to my body and went back into my body to go to my heart, I found that my body was like this. I was like this. Like that. I was sitting in the meditation hall, with crossed legs, sitting on a zafu pillow, but my whole back was straight, and I was like, and my mouth was wide open. So luckily, everybody in the meditation hall, when you meditate Vipassana, your eyes are closed, because if someone saw me, they'd be like, what the? I was like that. I looked like it reminded me of like Eric Liddell, for those who've seen Chariots of Fire, when he runs and then he goes into that run mode where he goes, like that. That's what it felt like. And then so I was like, what the? So then I like lowered back down, and then I said, okay, let's go into the heart. And I went into the heart, and just I was going through like all the, membranes and flesh of the heart. And then I went into the heart, and then there was like light, and I went into the light, and I kept going, in the heart. And then I got down to this area where, it was just like a space where it was light, and it was the same vibration. I felt the same vibration in the depth of my heart. I felt the same vibration that I felt at the edge of the universe. And then, for some reason I said, I'm going to go down into the earth. So I came out of the heart, and my body was like this. Like, so I went from this to this. My body was like this. And I'm like, what was that? So then I straightened up again, and I said, okay, let's go down. And I went, boom, down to the middle of the earth. And I don't know why I did that, but I went down to the middle of the earth, through all the layers of the earth, and then through the magma, like hot lava and stuff. And I got to the middle of the earth, same vibration, right? And it was a crazy experience. So then I came back up, and I'm like hanging out, and for some reason I thought, time is a vibration. Like, we're all vibration. Sound is a vibration. These coughs, whatever, those are vibration. But time's a vibration too. And I have no idea if there's any scientific fact in that, or I don't know. But I thought that while I was sitting here meditating. So I said, I'm going to go in time. I'm going to go back in time. So I went into this what I guess saw as this vibration of time, and I just went into there, and I went back in time, and I saw a ton of things, but I can't remember all the things that I saw, but I saw like what I have come to think are past lives, but I don't know. I saw like a Native American standing all by himself, and then I was sitting with my hands still on my knees, and I was going back in time, and I felt like my hands, and I felt like they were on like something wooden, and then I saw like I looked down and I saw hands on like a wooden yoke of a mule or an ox or a yak or something, and I was like pushing this, and then I just kept going back and back, and I went back to the Buddha. And right before I got to the Buddha, I was seeing all these things, images. I can't recall all the things I saw, but I do recall I saw like the Buddha, the image of the Buddha, like the Buddha sitting there, and his face was gone. His face was just empty. So I went through there, and I went back to the Buddha, and the Buddha was lying on his deathbed. He was just about to die, and I was like, oh man, I missed him. I was like, oh, I wanted to ask him so many things, and I missed him. And then he died, and I saw that when he died, I was reincarnated as him. He was like one of my past lives or something, and like I was like, I'm a reincarnation of the Buddha, and I was like, yeah, ego. But then I saw the reality of it, and it's actually not that special. It's really special, but it's not that special to my ego. So that what I saw is that when the Buddha died, what the Buddha had done, and I think this is what Jesus did too, which is why they say Jesus died for our sins, died for all our sins. What the Buddha and Jesus, and I think countless other saints and people throughout history have done, is they purified their mind, they purified their heart, they purified everything. And when they purified that, they erased all of their, in Christian ideology, you say all their sins. They erased, in Buddhist ideology, you say they erased all their karma, their like karmic debt, or in the actual language of Pali, the language that the Buddha spoke, they call it sankhara. They erased all their sankhara, their karmic debt. And so when the Buddha did that, he erased all that, and the only reason people are reborn again, reincarnated, is because they have this residue of karmic debt, or they have this residue of maybe sin, or this residue of sankhara. So when they die, that stays, and then that gets transferred to the next life. So the next life is born with the sankhara, or this karmic debt, or this original sin. And the Buddha had eradicated it all his sankhara, all his karmic debt, all his, quote-unquote sin. He had eradicated it. So when he died, he didn't get reincarnated into another person or another being or into a bird or something. He didn't get reincarnated. Instead, when he died, he just became pure vibration. Pure vibration just went out like that, and it didn't reincarnate into something else. It just became this pure vibration that went out into what I visualize as the soul pool, like the pool of all souls that are pulled out to become humans, birds, trees, whatever, the soul pool. And it just became pure vibration, and it went into the soul pool, and it went out into this big, vast soul pool. So in essence, he went into all of us who were born after the Buddha. So that vibration, a little piece of that vibration is in me, it's in you, it's in everyone. It's in the birds and the trees, it's in everyone. It's what they call Buddha nature, right? And they say everybody has Buddha nature. And that's what it is this vibration that got transferred out to us. And in fact, they also call it Christ consciousness, right? We all have Christ consciousness. We all have this piece of Jesus Christ inside of us. We don't have to eat his body and drink his blood. We have it inside of us. And so I realized that I'm the reincarnation of the Buddha, but not me, Kozo Hattori's reincarnation, but just everybody who is born after the Buddha died is the reincarnation of the Buddha, because he released all that vibration in there. And that's the same vibration that I found in my heart, same vibration I found at the edge of the universe, and the same vibration I found in the center of the earth. Why I went there, I don't know. So that was amazing that we're all connected in that way. And then I saw that vibration as kind of like musical vibration, as like sound, even though there's no sound to it. I saw it as that sound, and I thought, like, how come we can't feel that vibration? How come everybody doesn't know? If we've got like Christ consciousness, Buddha nature, Gandhi, pieces of Gandhi, pieces of all the other Joan of Arc, pieces of all the other saints and purified souls and all of human history, if we have a piece of that inside of us, how come we can't feel it? How come we can't hear that music? And it came to me that we tie, all this tension, all this ego, all these things around us. We connect all these strings, and we get out of tune. We're totally out of tune with that original vibration. And so our job in life, our purpose in life, is to retune to the Christ consciousness, retune to the Buddha nature, retune to that original vibration. And the way we do that is loosen the strings that are causing the tension. And sometimes you have to just cut the strings of your culture, your ego, your gender, your everything that you affiliate yourself with. Because the only way you can feel that universal vibration that connects us all is to cut the self, get the self out of there. Because the self, tries to tie a string around and say, this is mine. So you have to cut those strings, and then you can feel that vibration. And then once you do feel that vibration, once you do experience that wisdom, that experiential wisdom, then your job is to be basically a tuning fork for the rest of humanity or the world, is to resonate that vibration so others can feel it, and then they can start going, hey, that's the vibration I want. And they can start loosening the strings. So you tune others, right? And that's, service. That's what the Buddha did. When the Buddha became enlightened, he spent the next 45 years just teaching Vipassana meditation, just teaching the way to get in tune again. And that's what all the great spiritual leaders have done. They've served mankind. And it became really clear to me. And it was a wonderful feeling. It was humbling at one point, and I feel blessed to have seen it. So then I came back to my body, and I felt like pressure in my hips, so I got pulled back into my body again. And I think the chanting at the end of the 2-hour meditation had started, so I was listening to that, and I felt like, but I still was thinking, that's still vibration. And I realized it's just recordings of Goenkaji chanting in Pali in the Buddha's original language, and it's beautiful chanting. But I felt like, hey, this is just a vibration. It's literally just a vibration, because there's nobody there singing. It's just a recording of us singing. So it is literally just a vibration. I'm like, this is just a vibration. Time is just a vibration. This is in the Buddha's language, in Pali. I'm like, this is the Buddha talking to me. Like, this is the Buddha vibrating with, this is the Buddha tuning me. And so I sat there and I just tried to feel, I tried not to interpret the words or what I could understand of any of the words, but I just tried to feel, to tune with that vibration. And then I sat there for another maybe 5 minutes, and then, I don't know, for some reason I moved. And when I moved, I came out of everything. I was back in the meditation hall. And about an hour and 45 minutes had passed. So I sat in that pose on the 7th day for an hour and 45 minutes. I've never sat that long before. I've never sat for an hour. Usually I go like hour 5, hour 10, hour 15, and I gotta move, right? So that was great. And then for the last 15 minutes, I just sat there, did the vibrational tuning thing with the chanting, and then the meditation ended, and my eyes were still closed the whole time. And then I moved out of my position. I sat down, more comfortably, and I just sat there, and I was thinking, I gotta think about this. That was an incredible experience. Like I gotta remember this. Like what happened? I was marinating, and I was trying to figure out. I was just thinking about it, and I sat there, and I sat there for I don't know how long, and then when I finally opened my eyes, the whole hall was empty. Everyone else had gone to breakfast, and so I was sitting in the hall by myself, and I got up, and my body was really woozy, like I was real shaky. I didn't know whether I was gonna fall, and so I walked real gingerly out, put on my shoes, put on my jacket, and it was 6:30 in the morning. It was still dark outside. The sun hadn't risen, and when I got out the door, it was freezing cold, and I was wearing like 3 layers, a parka, pants, long socks, shoes, and it was like my body was super hypersensitized. It was like super sensitive. So I could feel every breath of wind, air, cool air, and it was freezing. And that day wasn't any colder than any of the other days that we were there. And I never felt that cold before. But I started walking the path, through the woods. And when I looked down at my feet, it looked like somebody else was walking, and I was just kind of watching somebody else walk my body. I don't know. It was bizarre. And I was taking like steps like this. Dink, 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 dink. So I was walking like super slow. But luckily, everyone else had left. Everyone else was in the breakfast hall, the eating hall. So I was all by myself. Because if someone would have saw me, they would have thought I don't know what they would have thought. They would have thought I was crazy. And so I was like walking real slow, and then I just started freezing like that. And my teeth started chattering like that. And so I turned and I looked at where the sun was going to rise, and there's this beautiful hill to the south of the meditation center, and you could just see like a little light coming behind the hill, and the sun was coming. And then I turned to a little right of that, and I looked through these trees, and I was looking southeast, and I don't know why, but I was just freezing. I was shaking, and then I started like shaking like this, and then my legs started shaking, and it was like I was going through an epileptic fit. But I was freezing cold, and I don't know why I didn't zip back down into the heated breakfast hall, but I stayed there, and so I'm freezing cold. I'm looking at the sun not coming up yet, and I'm shaking, and I just had this thought. I was like, the Buddha was cold on the night of his enlightenment, on the night he was awakened. And I felt that pain. I felt that pain, just freezing. And I knew it wasn't because he was cold. I knew it wasn't because he was a sadhu. He had spent countless nights, cold nights, and he knew how to deal with that. So it wasn't a physical coldness. It was because he knew that he had to accept the misery that is life in its most complete form. And he had to accept anicca, change, that all life is change. Everything changes, everything dies, everything's transit. And he had to accept that maybe he was cold, but that would change. The sun would come up and warm him up. But he had to realize and accept within every part of his body, within every part of his mind, he had to accept that true change means the sun might not rise. That can change. It's not guaranteed. It's not guaranteed that the sun's going to come up. It's not guaranteed that you're going to warm up someday. It's not guaranteed that your misery's going to end. He had to accept that his misery might continue, that the misery of the world is eternal. And that's why he was cold. And Christ had the same thing. Christ had to accept on the cross that the misery wasn't going to end, that he wasn't going to be saved. And that's why he said, my Father, why hast thou forsaken me? He had to accept that he was going to be forsaken. And in those statements, in my Father, why hast thou forsaken me? You see he doesn't say Father, why hast thou forsaken? He says my Father. You see I, me, mine. You see ego. You see ignorance of his true relationship to God, that he has the vibration inside of him. You see craving. You see a want of release from this suffering. And you see aversion. Aversion to the experience of his present moment. But then, like Buddha, Christ accepts the totality of that suffering. And then he says, God, forgive them, for they know not what they do. He goes from ego, ignorance, craving, aversion, to love, compassion, connection, faith, understanding. And that's how he purified his soul. They both had to accept the totality of that misery, the totality of suffering that is human life, that is nature. And I think that's why they were able to purify themselves, purify their heart, get rid of all their sankhara, get rid of their sin, and become pure vibration, and transfer that to us. Obviously, I don't know if any of this is true. I don't know if Jesus was warm on the cross. I don't know if Buddha sat under a tree, whether it was 99 degrees. I have no idea. But this is what I felt. This is what I experienced. And it just made me grateful. It made me grateful for the Buddha, for Christ, for all those who've realized the suffering that is human life, and that have said, I will put up with this suffering. I will embrace this suffering for the benefit of others, for the benefit of all. You think about all acts of altruism, throwing yourself on a grenade to save others. It's the same thing. You think about Mother Teresa, helping, the lepers in Calcutta. It's the same thing, taking on the misery of others for the good of humankind. And it just made me realize that money, status, what other people think about you, how you look, how you're written in history. None of that matters. All that matters is getting in tune with that vibration, and then helping others to tune to that vibration. And if you are worthy, or if you are strong enough to take on the misery of the entirety of existence and become pure vibration, and then pass that on to all future generations. So that was the vision I had on the 7th day of the Vipassana Meditation retreat. And it's funny. I saw this great vision, and then on day 8, I was up at like 3 in the morning, like, I can't wait to go meditate. I can't wait to go back in there and go out of body, And I was thinking, like, where am I going to go next? Let's see. I went to God, and I went to see Buddha. I don't know. Maybe I'll go in the future. I was thinking all these things. And I went back in at 4:30, and I sat down, and I was trying to, like, dissolve my body again. And all I kept thinking about was, I can't wait to tell Oprah all this, full ego, right? Like, I kept visualizing, Oprah, it was an amazing experience. And the vision never came back. I never dissolved the body again. In fact, for the next 3.5 days, most of my sits were very painful, were all body, were very heavy. Actually, that's not true. Maybe towards day 9 to day 10, they lightened up, because I think I started releasing all that ego. I stopped thinking about myself and who I was, and now I was this visionary and a prophet or whatever. And I just released that, but they were very bodily. I never got back out because of the ego. So, yeah, that was my experience. I'm not going to edit this. I'm just going to put it up there, because this is my first telling of this. I mean, I told a couple guys when we got to talk on day 10, I told a couple guys, what did you experience? I said, I had an experience one time where I jet out of body, and another guy actually said, yeah, I did too, and I was sitting above my body. And so I was talking to him, and I told him, well, what'd you do? And he's like, I got scared, so I went back in. I said, I went and saw God. So I told him, but I didn't. I've never told the whole thing, and I've never told it like that. So I'm not going to edit this. This is just, I'm putting this out there on YouTube, because I think it's important. I think it's important that even if it was even if it was like a drug trip or something, I wasn't taking any drugs, but you know what I mean? Even if it was like pure fantasy or pure false reality, I think what I saw, what I experienced, and what I learned is valuable to myself and to everyone. If we realize that we all have that Christ consciousness. Mother Teresa said the same thing. She said, when I look in the eyes of every single one of those people in Calcutta, I see Christ. She could see the Christ consciousness. I think it's valuable to know that is there, that exists, and that, when we hurt others, we're actually hurting ourselves. We're killing that Christ. When we kill others, we're killing that Christ consciousness that resonates inside of ourselves. So, I'm just going to put it up. If you're still listening to this, thank you for listening, and I hope one day you're able to see or experience the same thing I experienced, because we're all connected. May you be free from suffering. May you find peace and joy. Thank you for watching.